If you've been watching me for a certain amount of time, or you have just been present at the right times, then you know that I am very involved in the matter of fandom, spaces, culture, etiquette, the good and the bad. I observe it, I take part in it, less so the bad, at least I try to. But it's something that I think about a lot and engage with a lot and talk about it talk about a lot. This is one topic that I, as many others, have been observing for a while now, which I think is just comes along inevitably with the mainstreamification of anime in general. More normies, so to speak, getting into anime, getting into those fictional media, that niche that is now no longer really a niche. At least it's not nearly as niche as it used to be. The mainstreamification of fandom by Ali Dreamer. I've seen some of their videos before. They seem nice. They seem cool. I love the hairstyle. That is so fun. That is so pretty. Anyway, onto the actual video, which is ass quality. There we go. Hour-long video. I'm probably going to be pausing a lot, talking a lot. But I do want to try to... Chances are that I'm going to pause, comment on something, and then I'm going to press play, and they're going to bring up that very thing within the next, 10 seconds. Because that's oftentimes how these videos go. But anyway, let's have a look here.
I'm going to need us to take a deep breath. We're losing the recipes, and no one knows how to act anymore.
Yes! Already, yes. I'm trying to adjust the volume here. This should be fine.
Welcome back to my channel. The mainstreamification of fandom is not something I'd ever think I would say because I just made it up, but here we are. The last few months in fandom
also this video is, I think, a couple months, 4 months old. So, fairly recent.
Been something. From the heated rivalry article that has everyone losing their minds to the newest AO3 debate that
hate when you join a fandom and find out the fandom is still all just yaoi-pilled freaks who don't even give a fuck about the plot. See, here's what you have to consider. Oftentimes, those yaoi-pilled freaks give a lot of damns about the plot. In fact, some might argue too many, too much, too many damns, too many fucks. Of course, there's also the opposite end, but also fandom is built, among other things, on shipping and shipping culture, so I guess stay mad. Especially when you're on AO3. Like, of all places to get mad about it, AO3? Really?
Also has everyone losing their minds.
Also, excuse my dog barking downstairs.
Going down, which I talked about in my last video, that had everyone, you guessed it, losing their minds. And between young people on TikTok yelling at each other that they're the reason why this and that happened, between people on Twitter being... on Twitter. Yeah. I wanted to talk about what the hell is going on. How do we fix it? Is there anything to fix? Is fandom actually going mainstream? Has it always been going mainstream? And is this a good thing? Or does it spell doom for fandom? So let's...
Depends. I wouldn't call it, it depends. I don't think it's always been happening. I think it's been a gradual process. Would I call it a good thing? Not necessarily. Can good come of it? Sure. But
talk about it. If at any time you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe because I make videos like this all the time. And comment down below how you feel about the mainstreamification of fandom. I'll get into what all that means. But I asked you guys in a form, and oh my god, you guys showed out for that one. You guys showed out.
Hell yeah.
Obviously, I was not able to get to everybody and put everybody in this video. So let me know in the comments how you feel about this. And I have now opened the community tab on my channel. So you can go to my channel, find the community tab, and make your own post, and we can talk about stuff there. You can also leave suggestions there. I have a suggestion form, but if you have something that you just want me to respond to, that's not necessarily maybe a whole video worthy, let me know there. Nice. Or if it's something like, hey, have you seen that this thing happened? You can let me know there as well, because I don't check the form as often. I check it every, I try to check it every once a month or so. But if there's something that this thing is happening in fandom right now, because I am trying to do more current events, so let me know there. I also had to cut a portion of this video for time, so if you
between Mark for getting pounced on for not liking Poppy Chapter 5. Oh yeah, I remember that. What happened to internet fandoms then? Yeah.
Hear me talk about Markiplier and his response to playing Poppy Playtime, and also Gooseworks and the response to Gooseworks and the way fans were acting like that.
A shame.
Catch me over on Patreon, where I also will be reading more responses. But yeah, you can also hit that hype button. That helps, I guess, push me in the algorithm. I guess I really don't know. It's just a new.
I forget the hype thing exists, honestly.
So girl. I don't know. And of course, all of my social justice links will be in the description below. If you have the time, money, energy to help out, that would be greatly appreciated.
Oh yeah, I gotta check that out.
And let's get into it. So regardless of whether or not you think fandom is going mainstream or you don't even know what that means, let me just say there are a lot of new people coming into fandom. That is a fact.
Yeah.
Post 2020, there was a big, huge explosion of people using social media. People finding out that fandom isn't just...
Oh, there goes my internet. Okay. All right, I had to lower the quality to 720p. My internet's been a little wacky recently, so apologies for that.
Being a fan of something, and therefore people joining fandom spaces. Being in a fandom, as you may or may not know, is a lot more than just being a fan of something. It is actively participating in fan activities. This could be anything from, yes, power scaling, to writing fan fiction, shipping, making fan art, all of the above, cosplaying.
Yep.
All of that is fandom activities. It simply just means that you are actively participating in being a fan of something rather than just being a casual fan of something.
Right.
This is why you'll hear people say, oh, I really like this, but I'm not in the fandom of this. Or, oh, I'm not really in the fandom of that anymore.
Right. Essentially means that, like, you go beyond just, like, watch it. You go beyond just consuming and going, I like this thing. You actually, as they said, actively take part in some way, shape, or form. Beyond the, just going through the story or going through the medium and then moving on, essentially.
That just means that they may still like that show, movie, piece of media, whatever, but it means that they're not actively participating as a fan anymore. They're just more of a casual fan. A good example, I don't know why this came to mind, is that I love Zootopia. I love those movies down. I love those movies down. But I wouldn't consider myself a part of the fandom. The closest thing I've gotten into that fandom is the abortion comic.
I'm sorry?
I don't know anything else about what's going on over there. So I would say that I like Zootopia, but I'm not in the fandom. So I would say definitely in the last year, we have seen a big uptick in people joining fandom. People wanting to be a part of fandom activities. And I think this is in part due to when a show gets really popular, or when a really popular show does really poorly. And if the last couple videos on my channel are anything to go off of, we can see where that has come from. First, there was Stranger Things, which Stranger Things always had a really big fandom, but especially now that it ended, and it ended in such a...
we'll never know, but have pretty man.
Away. We have a lot of people...
I've heard things about Stranger Things, mostly good things, but yeah, I seem to recall that the ending was was weird, not good, whatever. I was never into it. I just hear people talking about it.
People coming onto AO3 now, or just Tumblr in general, trying to, you know, fix what was broken, right? We have Fix It Fix, we have Post Canon.
I do like
all
Fix
this
It
other
Fix.
type of stuff, and people making fan fiction, fan art, cosplaying, all these other types of things, right? I think Byler was like the #1 ship on Tumblr for, I don't know if it was for all of 2025 or if it was just for like that month or whatever. It was a whole thing because Spam Tenna was #2.
As they should be.
Between people who ship Spam Tenna and Byler, because people didn't know who the fuck that was, and they thought Spamton was a child. It was a whole thing. It was
God.
so fucking funny.
Yes.
So funny.
My child, my son, Spamton G. Spamton.
Anyway, we see stuff like that get super, super popular, and people coming into fandom spaces because they're lacking something. Versus something like Heated Rivalry. You're not lacking anything in Heated Rivalry. You see everything. You see everything. Anyway, people just want more of that, right? Coley Does Things has a beautiful, beautiful skit about like the current state of fandom.
I've seen some of her videos. She's great.
Do you want there to be OCs, for instance? OC? Oh, original characters.
Oh, I saw that video, I think.
That they can then put into the fan art or fanfics they make. Oh, why would you do that? It's fun. It's a way to feel like you're involved or included in the story or world you love. Well, I don't want that. Oh, can I read about my favorite couple from a show? Of course. That's like one of the biggest reasons why people write fanfiction. Although there is plenty of other like non-romantic stuff if you're interested. Like there's Great Found Family and platonic fics. No, that sounds low-key pointless, so not interested. kind of rude.
Yeah, I saw that video. It's a good one.
Specifically had a lot of people who maybe were like on the book talk side of things or just regularly consumed things, and then they saw Heated Rivalry and they started what I like to call the Great Fujoshi Migration. And I think it's a lot of people, women specifically, whether they're queer, straight, or whatever, realizing that, oh, I see what's happening here. I see what the girlies have been talking about. I see what they've been talking about, and now they're entering this space. When you have an influx of people entering a space,
yeah,
you're not always going to have your best interest in mind. Also, I need to say
it gets a little chaotic.
This mass influx of new people happened a couple years ago with the My Hero Academia fandom and Steven Universe, and even further back, it happened with Marvel movies. And I'm sure you can go even further back than that.
It'll always happen.
Becomes insanely popular. A lot of people are going to realize that fandom was this thing that was here all along. Which, of course, is where our problems begin. First thing I want to get off of my chest, fandom is a culture. Sure, it's not the same type of culture you would see with a race like Filipino culture, Black culture, etc., but it is still culture, or the custom, arts, social institutions, and achievements of a particular nation, people, or other social group. In this case, it would be other social group.
Right.
We talk about like early 2000s culture, like we just talk about a group of people who are doing a certain type of thing.
And that is what some people do not understand, is that, yes, fandom culture also has its own fandom etiquette. That if you want to take part in said culture, you should also learn to respect and acknowledge and follow. You can criticize it, sure, but don't just, like, come barging in and then expect everyone to just be fine with you going off and doing whatever and disrupting shit, you know?
I know, kind of crazy. Anthropology, like, definitions are always pretty loose like that because people are pretty loose. We're not all like one monolith of people. However, when a group of people get together and abide by kind of unwritten rules and traditions and things like that, that is culture, right? The early 2000s culture was marked by emerging technology, 3D gimmicks, eating disorders, and skirts over jeans. Fandom culture is marked by memes, edits, gifs, inside jokes that become trends, fan art, fan fiction tropes, and of course, tradition. Like, the first cosplay you make is always going to be trash held together with hot glue. The first fanfic you write will most likely have a Mary Sue in it and will be super, super tropey. And you will believe that your headcanon about a character is the most specialist thing ever, and you will think that you've cracked the code. And if you hear people screaming at a con going, you know to just scream along with them. You don't have to ask why. You don't even have to know where it came from. You just do it. These are the unwritten rules and traditions of fandom that have always existed. And when you have an influx of people coming in who don't understand it or don't take the time to understand it, it tends to cause a little bit of friction. So this is...
Which is also wild because a lot of the etiquette is genuinely just don't be an asshole. It's just be respectful, mind, be considerate of people's boundaries, and that's like most of it.
This is where I think our current fandom problems begin. Back when there was an influx of people getting into fandom via Marvel movies or My Hero Academia, there was still like a layer of like subculture that you needed to penetrate before you got to what fandom is, right? Marvel movies are based off of comics, right? And comics are still considered pretty nerdy. My Hero Academia is an anime. In 2016, when My Hero Academia came out, anime was still kind of considered this fringe thing. It was getting a lot more mainstream, as big, definitely, especially in 2016, as like anime started to like really, really go global and Crunchyroll became the behemoth that it was. But when these things were first becoming popular, they were still kind of fringe. They were popular among people who watched anime. So there was still this layer of subculture that you had to go through that by the time you got to fandom online spaces, you kind of knew what's up, right? Like, people who were into Marvel and stuff like that were mostly on Tumblr, and Tumblr had its own ecosystem going on, and
Tumblr was a whole other
place
beast
for people to be introduced to fandom because there were so many fandoms going on. There were so many people. There were actually written rules. Like, now, this is the one thing about like having a culture, right, is that these rules are written, but they're not written. Like, if you were to ask a Black person how they particularly spend their Christmas or how they particularly spend their summers or whatever, some people may answer at cookouts. Some people may answer in the hills. Some people may answer going across the country and visiting family. Like, cultures are not a monolith. They are like a trend of things, but they are not a monolith, obviously. Just in the same way that like Black people are not a monolith. And so Tumblr was this special place because there were all these different types of I was gonna say cultures, fandoms. There's all these different types of fandoms together in one space. That if you just lurked on Tumblr for like a month, you would understand what the fuck was going on. So when My Hero Academia and Marvel was becoming a really big thing, people had a place like this where everything was kind of together. You kind of understood the rules just being in this vicinity for a while. And then of course Tumblr died. Tumblr died, right? And I think with it went all of like this like connected culture that we all had with.
Like, Tumblr is not like Tumblr didn't die afterwards. It's still around, but I do remember being in school and having a classmate with whom I was kind of talking about like the whole like Tumblr censorship kind of thing, and the stuff that was going on back. And when was that? When was that? I think it was when I was in like either like late middle or like early high school grade, which was like like somewhere around 2017, 18-ish, I think, probably around that time.
Fandom. All these unwritten rules that people would have, or even written rules, like I said, some people written them down, but like not everyone abides by them, kind of just got lost. Like, it almost was lost media in a way. There weren't people like in like having fandom specific blogs anymore. There weren't people talking about different events that were going on and like courtesy and etiquette and stuff like that. Like, that was stuff that was actively happening on Tumblr.
True.
Once Tumblr kind of died, and I put that in quotes because Tumblr's still alive, and it's a fun time over there. You should come over. If you're sick of like Twitter and TikTok, you should just come over to Tumblr. It's fun. Anyway, once that died, people moved to Twitter. And this is before TikTok really became a thing. So people moved to Twitter. And as Twitter has degraded over the years, the walls that separated different fandoms started to come down. And you would think that this is a good thing, right? Because that means that more people have more access to more things. However, I think that just in general, and social media in general, we have a little bit too much access to each other. And I think that has led to people seeing fandom and then not understanding what it is. And well, now there is like no barrier between like the piece of media that you like and fandom. And again, people might not think that's such a bad thing at first, but what is happening is people are jumping into these things and seeing things that they don't understand. And what do people do when they don't understand something? They call it weird, they call it fringe, they call it gross,
they hate on it,
they call it that,
and the people who like it,
types of things under the sun. And now Fujoshi is being used as a mainstream word in the same way that we are calling women who really like the thing having psychosis.
Anyway, even Aldi does AI ads now. Oh, fuck off. This is your daily reminder. Fuck generative AI, specifically that one.
Talk about this article real quick. This is just going to be a side tangent because I don't want to talk about this article too much. This was an article written to talk about what is the phenomenon that was the heated rivalry fandom and why so many women, straight, queer, or otherwise, were now into heated rivalry and into boys kissing and all this other type of stuff.
Being
I understand, especially if you're from the West, not really understanding this phenomenon and doing your research, or at least attempting to do some research about it. I will give it this. The person who wrote the article did try to do some research. What I hate, though, is in the beginning, calling it a mass psychosis when this has existed for forever. Okay, like, this has existed for forever. I understand you're trying to write about something that is trendy and going on, and you want to understand this phenomenon that is going on. And it's like you almost contradict yourself, because at the beginning you call it a mass psychosis, but then later on you go on to say that this has been a thing for forever.
That it does feel like just like a catch, like just to like catch your attention and to be like, oh, you know, either you agree and then you keep reading, or you disagree and you're like, what the fuck is this person talking about? But like, come on.
Fandom and Fujoshis have been a thing for forever. So it's like, then what is it then? Is it a mass psychosis that like just came out of nowhere?
It might have just been like to grab attention.
And women are now finding out, like women who maybe didn't know what Fujoshis were, or yaoi, or any of that stuff, now are finding out about it and are getting into it. That's all I have to say about that article. There's a lot going on in that article. I don't think it's like wholly completely
I haven't actually read it, but I've heard about it.
This mass psychosis event is kind of crazy, but like, hey, Hey, that's all I gotta say about that. Anyway, I say all of this to say all of the fandom culture do's and don'ts kind of got left by the wayside when people mass exodus from Tumblr. I've said this before, but like post 2020, people have become a lot more insular online.
Yep.
Like no one really likes to talk to anybody anymore.
Yep.
Like before when we had Fandom, if you wanted to know about something, I talked about this in my last video about like where you would find these websites and things to find, you know, your favorite doujinshis and stuff like that, like legally and illegally and all this type of stuff. You would actually have to talk to somebody. You would have to talk to somebody. You would have to DM somebody. You would be like, hey, do you know where this thing is and whatever. And that's how people made friends, right? Like you would find something you had in common, you would DM this person or go up in their ask box or whatever and like just talk to them. And now we're so insular online post 2020 that like no one wants to talk to anybody anymore.
Dude, the way that I've met like some of my closest friends was through a WhatsApp group chat where we just talked about Bungo Stray Dogs, and then eventually that whole group chat fell apart, and one of the people that, or like basically the only person that I really stuck with was my current girlfriend. Another one of my closest friends whom I just got to know through Instagram, like DMing back and forth occasionally, and then we happened to join a Discord server, and now we're here.
People talk about dead internet theory, which is the theory that the internet is slowly being taken over by bots, and that soon no one will actually be interacting with anyone, just bots. I think a similar version of this is true in fandom. Not just the rise of bots online, both creating comments and responding to comments, but also the fact that our algorithms are designed to keep us scrolling, not keep us in place for too long. One of the reasons that I love Tumblr and love YouTube is because you kind of have to stop and be here for a while. Like, even if a video is only like 8 minutes long or whatever, you have to stop and watch that video for 8 minutes. Yes, sometimes you'll have the video on in the background, but you're kind of in this space with this person, with this YouTuber,
I get that
for that amount of time. And on Tumblr, blogs and just the way the algorithm worked on Tumblr was like this like virality world, pre For You page world, where you could go and find stuff and actually like find it. Like you could.
Meanwhile, Twitter, it's see post, read post, scroll, see post, read post, scroll, look for things, put in word in search bar, and you see tons of things of people like mentioning that thing once, and then people, even if you want to find like, you know, if you like ship A and you look up ship A, you have like dozens of people talking about why that ship is the worst and is awful and how you could ever like that and why it's problematic. And then occasionally you'll have people talking about why it's good. And then more people talking about why it sucks.
Look up something and actually find the thing you're looking for. Posts stayed in circulation in the algorithm for days, if not months. People, when talking about a viral post, knew what you were talking about. People in other fandoms across the way knew what you were talking about because these posts weren't just one after another after another after another. Tumblr still kind of has that now, though. It's a little weird. It's still a little broken over there, but like it's still Tumblr, better than honestly. Like going on TikTok, seeing a post and then never seeing it again. Going on Instagram, seeing a post, it immediately refreshes and never seeing it again.
The amount of times that's happened to me where Twitter just automatically refreshed and I lost a post that I was on and I just could not for the life of me find it anymore. Dude.
Never seeing it again, right? And I think this For You page is kind of been like a detriment to a lot of people because I think it has led us to not really want to engage outside of our own little scrolling bubble. Now our algorithms are designed for quick endless scrolling. You see a post you like, you move on. If you stay to comment something, most of the time it's rage bait, just made to get you mad and not actually spark conversation. Quick videos, quick comments, quick dopamine hits, never satisfied. And this has actually hurt fandom a lot in my opinion. This has led people becoming really entitled to things like fan art and fan fiction. If you're constantly scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, you see a piece of artwork you like and then scroll, like and then scroll, you're more likely to just want more. You're not really sitting there and taking your time and looking at like a piece of work. There's also the issue of exactly what you see. Algorithms are designed so that you never see anything you don't like. Even when it's rage bait within the realm of something you care about and something you like.
You're still interested.
Keeps you looking at that thing for longer. If I got news about some random car, because I don't like cars, right? Like I don't care for cars. If I got news in rage bait about cars, I won't care. I'll just keep scrolling. I'll just move on. But if I got rage bait about my favorite show or my favorite movie, I am more likely to stay and interact with that post and stay like scrolling and want to stay on the app.
Yep.
And that is what our algorithms are built for. Even when it's rage bait, it's still something that you like. And so these algorithms are built for you to never, ever, ever see anything that you don't like or anything that is outside of your regular norms. And because you are so used to seeing your own opinions echoed back at you, the second a creator or anybody just says something that you don't necessarily agree with, you get taken aback. Even offended. I was very sheltered growing up, so my first experience with fandom was looking up Ninjago ship fan art on Google.
Oh my God,
I had just discovered gay people. So I'm not the most experienced, but it only grew from there. My first fandom experiences were isolated to websites and forums. This non-binary was going to the library at 13 and logging on to Dark Riku Online to talk about Kingdom Hearts and pretend they have a crush on Riku and hate Kairi. I didn't have a crush, turns out I'm just hella gay for girls, but the site was also called Dark Riku Online in the early 2000s when female character hate was cool, I guess. I've been online for a majority of my life, playing Flash games and MMO for kids like Toontown and Club Penguin, so I've seen the downfall of privacy and internet etiquette. I joined Tumblr around the pizza user scandal, so I've seen it all. The 6-pence child slave scandal, human pet guy, girl who stole human bones, homestuck Sharpie bath, HIV living to name a few. Nothing really shocks me. I know a fake story when I see one, and I know how to cater fandom experience for myself.
I got into anime when I was in like excluding stuff like Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon and stuff, which technically still counts, but whatever. My first anime outside of those was One Piece, I think. I just happened to see it like on TV one day, and from then on it just kind of went on and on. And I was on Instagram quite a bit, so I met a lot of people there. Again, like a lot of my friends, mutuals who I consider very dear to me, my girlfriend. So that's like I moved from just like watching anime to thankfully having people to talk about it with. One of my childhood friends was also into like games and anime and stuff, so I had people to talk with just in real life, but also Instagram. My first fanfiction site was fanfiction.net, so I read stuff there. I also started, writing the occasional thing myself, which sucked, of course. It was bad, but obviously. Then I got into editing around 2016-ish, first through, like, just anime on YouTube, AMVs, anime compilations, anime on crack compilations. Do people even make those anymore? I don't actually know. But they were fun. And then I just mostly stayed on occasionally Tumblr, mostly Instagram, through edits and stuff and engaging with people that way. And then eventually it just morphed into some Discord stuff, Twitter, occasionally YouTube, and that's basically it. Well, and AO3, obviously.
If you don't know what this person is talking about, you should check out Strange Eons. They have a wonderful, wonderful channel documenting pretty much all of Tumblr, like just all of Tumblr and the wackiness and weirdness that was Tumblr and is Tumblr. So if you want to know about any of these stories, they've probably made a video about it. My fandom journey started in 2008 on DeviantArt. This was during the era of DeviantArt.
Yeah, some of that
wasn't
too.
being used for Japanese erotica, but for any and all MM shipping, being seen as something sinful and destroying childhoods. By shipping two male characters together, it's really shaped how I view fandom in the modern era. Gay headcanons and fan art would make it you an internet pariah, but nowadays we have a whole rainbow of queer headcanons that are normal and shared with pride. It's heartwarming to see how far we've come with fandom depictions of queerness. So that all being said, let's talk about AO3 and censorship. AO3, or Archive of Our Own, is an archive, not a social media, that was made in response to people feeling like they have nowhere to post their own fanfics free of judgment, algorithms, and copyright takedowns. Hence the Archive of Our Own name. Which is why it is ironic that people are calling for monetization and censorship
never
on AO3.
Never.
Let's talk about the easy one first, monetization.
Dude, the ads are well timed. Okay, shut the fuck up. I don't care. I really don't care. Shut up. Who cares? Not me. go away. Please and thank you. God, fuck. Anyway.
No. After you're finished with this video, if you really want to understand why I'm saying no, go look up the downfall of Wattpad and see exactly what happened to that app. We live in such a capitalistic hellscape
I forget that Wattpad exists, and I would like to keep forgetting that it exists.
Everyone is having a hard time meeting their own needs, no matter how much money you make. Labor in all of its form has been commodified so much that even your hobbies need to make money for you. And our 9-to-5s are so grueling and so taxing and so tiring that by the time you get home, if you even have time to do any of your hobbies, you feel like you should be at least making money off of them instead of doing it for the love of the game. You have been primed to believe that everything you do needs to have some monetary value attached to it. And it makes sense. If you can make money off of something that can help supplement your income because your income is not enough to get by, yeah, you're gonna want to take that. Like, if your needs were met, if you could just pay for everything with your one job that you have that isn't super grueling and taxing, you could come home and write fan fiction and not worry about like, oh, did I waste my time? Should I be working on something else so I could put more food on the table? Or is it okay for me to have a hobby that is just a hobby, you know? And also, we talk about the copyright issues of it all. Fan art, you can get away with a lot more because you're not usually in direct competition with official merchandise of a piece of media. Whereas fan fiction, if you choose to bind it and sell it or print it and sell it or whatever, that goes in direct competition with usually books, even movies, because those are screenplays, right? And then, of course, like manga and comics and things like that. You're going in direct.
I've never seen, well, that's not true, probably. Like, like, lots of books and, you know, like, popular, like, literature and whatnot started out as fan fiction. But I've never seen, like, a fan fiction of something, like, of a piece of media that already exists and that I know, if you know what I mean, being printed and published. That's, I don't know. That kind of has a weird feel to it.
Competition with these people. So yeah, it's no wonder like fan fiction gets the hammer a lot more than say fan art does. Okay, easy part over. Let's get to the hard part and talk about censorship. Now, censorship has no concrete set definition, but it's largely agreed upon that censorship is the act of preventing or taking down work, usually artistic in nature, for reasons. I kid you not. The whole definition of reasons is not a part of the definition itself. It literally is just reasons. And it's because these reasons could be anything. And I'm not going to sit here and say I think censorship is bad all the time. In fact, I do think in some cases censorship can be really good. For example, children's websites like Club Penguin and Roblox, for example. Club Penguin had a lot of censorship on it because it was a child website. Roblox attempts barely to have this type of censorship on their platform. For example, Diddy games were a thing. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Those were a thing. And they had to take them all down. Why? Because even if there's nothing explicitly being said in those games, the fact that you are a child playing Roblox in a game where you are being chased around by Diddy.
Yeah, like in those cases, obviously, because it also depends on the design, I guess, if you know what I mean. Like a children's website, yeah, that's designed for children. Children should be on that. And things not for children should not be on that. Checks out. Makes sense.
Yeah. Even if it's just like a runner type game, the fact that Diddy was in there at all is a big no-no. So those games eventually get taken down. And so in that way, censorship is a good thing on these platforms. Those are children platforms, however. On adult platforms or platforms for all ages, things are a little different. Now I want to make it very, very, very clear. Kids should be allowed in fandom spaces. Fandom spaces are not inherently 18 plus, nor are they inherently explicit. However, there are 18 plus spaces on the internet and in fandom. And as we have seen on Twitter and the like, there is no barrier between those two anymore.
The thing is that the internet, it just is not a very child-friendly place. And on the side of the users, it is their responsibility, our responsibility to, you know, tag stuff appropriately. Keep, like, the explicit stuff in dedicated spaces and all that. But on the other hand, if once that is achieved, we can't stop the kids and teenagers from looking things up. That's not our job. That's not our job. It's not the government's job. That's the job of the parents. And if those don't do their fucking job, then they have no right to blame anyone else for not doing it for them.
More. So It is no wonder that some people are like, well, we should have censorship because, you know, kids or vulnerable populations to whatever type of taboo topics are on here on AO3 don't have a way. Well, there is a way. We'll get to it.
Yep.
Don't have
on AO3, there is in fact a way.
Recourse to not see that stuff. Like there isn't just an 18 plus button that you can check on AO3. You have to go through that yourself. Take Twitter, for example. Ground zero for the hell that is fandom right now. Everything is just thrown together and everyone can see everything all the time.
Yeah.
Most websites do not have an 18 plus filter, and if they do, it is poorly executed and usually just leaves your post in the void for no one to see. I don't know why it is so hard for these apps to like implement a proper 18 plus filter. You have so much biometric data on us, including our ages. Why is it so hard to show me, because I am an adult and I put adult in all of my like stuff on social media? Why is it so hard to show me 18 plus material but not show children 18 plus material? You only have to be 11 to have a Twitter. Like Twitter.
11? 11? That is wild.
Ooh. However, as we know, unlike the rest of these platforms where their 18 plus filters do not work properly, Archive of Our Own has a very, very good like filtering system. And this is for anything and everything. If you do not want to see explicit material, there are so many settings that you can choose to never see explicit material. If you don't want to see anything about a specific tag, you never, ever, ever have to see any fan fiction that has that specific tag.
Exactly.
So what is going on here? What is like really going on here?
And that should be the first thing, right? The first thing you do whenever you open AO3 is you go to the filters, you go to the exclude section, or include if you're looking for something specific, but otherwise you go to the exclude section and you put in all the tags and keywords and whatnot, and thick lengths and upload dates or languages or whatever that you, well, I think you can't like exclude languages. You know, the stuff that you don't want to see. And guess what? You don't even have to do it anew every time. Well, you kind of do, but not per fandom at least. If you're in the same fandom, then you can just put in a different ship and the exclude filters still stay.
I'm going to point you to a video. Very funnily enough, the day that I'm filming this, the day before, ES Social put out a video specifically talking about censorship. Specifically talking about like why people are up in arms about censorship. And she goes into lovely detail about why censorship has never worked and why it will never work, and why like fiction affecting reality and reality affecting fiction and all this. And I will touch on that in a little bit in a second. But first, I think the reason why certain people are really up in arms about censorship on AO3 is taboo topics. So taboo topics could be anything from incest to pedophilia to just toxic like relationships and abuse and things of that nature, right? And these are things that people have been writing about for forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. ES Social goes into really good detail about like bodice rippers and how people like did not like that women were writing bodice rippers. They thought that it was setting them back and setting feminism back. And where have we heard that one before? You know what I mean? People who read these types of material are perpetrators or excusing this type of material, and that is not true. That is just simply not true.
It is not.
I have played Call of Duty since I was a child. I don't play it anymore, but when I was a child, probably in my most formative years, I played a lot of Call of Duty. I played a lot of Call of Duty, and I promise you, not once have I ever thought about joining the military. I did not become a racist piece of shit, nor have I thought about getting a gun and doing anything horrible with it. However, it would not be right for me to say that there is probably somebody out there who was influenced by these games to do something like join the military or take a gun to go do horrible things.
And here's the thing, right? It is not a black and white issue. Fiction can and does affect reality, but not on a 1-to-1 scale. watching bad, horrible, awful fiction about people doing heinous shit does not inherently make you a bad person. Just like watching something that teaches about kindness and empathy and getting along and wholesome things does not necessarily make you a good person either. Look at how many people like anime, like One Piece or other shows that preach those exact things, and then they turn around in real life and hurl every slur known to man at every minority group under the sun. It's not a one-to-one like translation, you know? And just because, you know what? I'm gonna wait on this one thing that might come up later.
Two things can exist at once. Social talks about this a lot in her video about how there's just more nuance to this than we will ever actually talk about, which is why I personally do not stand with the terms pro-ship and anti. I fucking hate those words. They do not mean anything. You ask anybody about these words and they have like 20 million different definitions.
They used to mean something, and then people came and were like, oh, pro-ship means problematic ship, and it means that you condone and support these things in real life. Which is also ironic, because then they only use that argument sometimes, only for the usually sexual topics such as incest or pedophilia, like lolicon, like lolly show content and whatnot. But then don't really like make excuses and try to justify it when it comes to just quote regular violence, gore and whatnot. Which, listen, you can find it weird. That's perfectly fine. You can look at that, or I guess not look at that kind of stuff, find it weird, find it gross. You can choose to ignore or just, you can refuse to engage with people who enjoy this kind of stuff. Sure. But you do not have the right to then go around and make harmful accusations based on the fiction someone enjoys, even if it happens to be content that you are just less desensitized to than you are to murder and violence and gore. That is like the main thing it boils down to. Unless there is some like backed up, peer-reviewed scientific research that shows that those two are in fact different on a neurological, biological basis. I have yet to see any proof of that. So as of now, the take is just, listen, if I can play a game where if I can play GTA and not be a criminal and not be a piece of shit, I could hypothetically also consume other problematic content and enjoy that problematic content, quote problematic content, without condoning those things in real life. That is an option. That is very much an option. I love fictional men. I do not care for real men. I love real women. My preference in fictional women, not nearly as broad as it is in fictional men. And lots of other things.
For him, everybody's definition is different, and so I'm not going to like align myself with either of those words, because like that fucking Tumblr post, IDK man, I think it just depends.
Yeah, also yeah, the whole like pro and anti-ship thing is like pro-ship initially just meant like pro-shipping, which should be the most obvious one, because you know, pro meaning for something, in favor of something, pro and anti. Like, those words are used in other contexts. Literally when is pro in front of a word used to mean problematic, other than when people claim it's used for pro-ship? Literally when?
Really do. I think it just depends
a
lot when it comes to certain
though.
taboo topics, and like what should be written about them and what shouldn't be written about them, and etc. Please go watch Ia Social's video. It is so good. Fiction does affect reality. At the same time, reality affects fiction. Crazy, yep. I know. Crazy, I know. Ia Social has a really good point in her video that she talks about how as much as you like may get on people for consuming media that has taboo topics, and people have talked about the many different reasons on why they might enjoy these types of topics or find catharsis in these types of topics, right? We also have to ask ourselves, what society have we made where people find catharsis in those types of topics online? What type of society have we made where someone uses this as a form of therapy? And it's good for.
I mean, yes, but also it doesn't have to be about therapy. It doesn't have to be about trauma. Sometimes people just enjoy those things. And yes, there is some deeper psychological analysis that you can get into, try to pick apart those people's brains and whatnot. But again, you can enjoy those things without condoning and supporting them in real life.
For them, it actually works for them, and it actually heals them.
Shut the fuck up! And we're back. Any second now?
We have to ask ourselves that. And this is the point that I want to get to, is that I think people giving the benefit of the doubt, the people who are calling for censorship on AO3, if you do not know, are specifically calling for certain topics, taboo topics, to not even be allowed on the website.
Right.
That is censorship. Plain, point blank, period.
Yeah, it is.
And my question always is, who is deciding? Who gets to decide what topics are allowed and what topics aren't allowed?
Yep.
Who gets to decide whether this topic is fetishizing something or whether or not it's actually a PSA?
That too, because it is just highly subjective. Because either you ban like all content, like any and all, which is not gonna work, or you try to pick and choose, in which case, who does the picking and the choosing? Because people have different definitions and interpretations of when something is romanticizing and when it's not. It would just, like, people would just fight back and forth over it, and it would, everything would be even more chaotic. There should be, like, ground rules, you know? Like, for example, as much as I am for people doing whatever the fuck they want in fiction, it should stay fictional. No involving real people without their consent and stuff. Like, that should be, like, the given. But that is where we are crossing into the real life realm.
The example is if Lolita, the book, were to become a thing today, if it was put out today, you people would sit there and say that it's glorifying pedophilia. Yep. It's not.
Yep.
It is in the perspective of the perpetrator for a very specific reason. There are some of my favorite books of all time. The Foxhole Court. I love that book series to death. That book series has, like, every single character has this tragic anime backstory, because the whole thing is that they're in college, and it's kind of like this, you know, kids who are from a rough background get a chance to come to this college and be a part of a sports team, right? And so every single kid here has been abused. One way or another has been abused. And let me tell you, if you were to erase those taboo topics and be like, we can't talk about these taboo topics, especially because they do talk about them and they do go into detail about it because it's important to the plot of the story, that book wouldn't exist. In fact, a lot of books and stuff wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Where does the line get drawn? Who gets to decide what is fetishization and what is not? Where does that line get drawn? It is important for you to know that AO3 abides by US law. Now, just because something is a law doesn't mean that it's necessarily good.
Yep.
But the point that I'm trying to make here is that if you genuinely think something is wrong, like you see something on the internet, or specifically in this case AO3, and you think that something genuinely is wrong and harmful and hurtful to the degree that it is illegal, there are ways, not just on AO3, for you to go about reporting that stuff.
And that is what people don't do, by the way. People go ahead and call you, like, heinous things and make accusations and be like, oh my god, you are such a bad person for this, and then they don't report it. And guess what? There have been cases of people reporting it, to the point that I had to leave for a second and I lost my train of thought. Something reporting. Yeah, if you think it's so illegal, report it. Actually do it if you actually think it is such a big deal. And even then, once again, sometimes the law also does fuck up. Sometimes what the law says is legal and illegal is not necessarily what is good and bad, what is right and wrong and stuff. And if you have time to go on and seek out, you know, fictional content to report, you could spend that time on trying to help real people who are caught up in those situations that are actually being harmed. Because again, there is no actual proof. However gross and abhorrent you find it, there is no actual proof that fictional depictions of, quote, problematic content lead to like higher rates of such acts being committed or encourage people to commit such acts. It is not proven. It is just not. There is no like scientifically founded evidence for that. People have done studies, people have research, and people have, come to their own conclusions. But just that, like, they've done that on the other side too. There's also been studies and works published talking about how that is not the case. So it's not a black and white issue. Whoopsies.
I'm so serious. Please put your actions where your mouth is, and if you really want to do something to help, do something. Don't just go on Twitter and complain about it and try to get the entirety of AO3 taken down. A lot of people who I see arguing for censorship on AO3 are young, whether that be in age or how long they've been in fandom spaces. So I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. When you live in a world that does not care for children, goes out of their way to actively harm them, and leaves them to the wolves, it is no wonder they are highly protective of yourself and others like you online. You should be. Unfortunately, we live in an era where internet safety is no longer taught to kids, and they are just thrown into the deep end with no clear clarification on what is and isn't for adults. I often hear people say, oh, I didn't want to see gore of my comfort character, right? And before that was a popular meme, it was something someone genuinely said, because they were upset that they saw their favorite character in an uncompromising position. And any normal response to that would be like, okay. Like, number one, you're going to see things you don't like in this world. Like, just straight up point blank period. Even if it's harmless, right? But to protect yourself online, you need to do what you need to do to protect yourself online. It sucks that we live in a world that does not protect children. That fucking sucks. It sucks that there are people in this world who actively want to harm, people in power who actively want to harm children. That fucking sucks, and I am sorry. However, censoring people is not the way to go about it. Ia Social says this in her video, and I know I'm quoting her a lot, but she really put this video out yesterday, and I'm like, girl, you just took everything that I wanted to say and put it, like, made sense of it, right? Like, when censorship happens, it does not happen to the people in power who need to be held accountable. It almost always affects marginalized people, queer people, people of color, and women, and children. When you are trained by an algorithm to only ever see the things that you like, when you see the things that you don't like, you feel wrong. Like something is genuinely wrong. Instead of just blocking and moving on, you feel like this is a personal moral slight on yourself. It's not. But I can't blame you if you think that way when the algorithms are literally teaching you that everything is for you. I think about like WALL-E and like that movie when all the adults are like babies. People.
Oh, come the fuck on. God, I fucking hate it here.
I think got the wrong takeaway from the adults in that movie, right? All of the humans in that movie who lived on the spaceship. Yes, they are fat, but what they are supposed to represent more than just being fat and like lazy or whatever, they're supposed to represent being babies. Like, did anybody catch that? I feel like I'm going crazy. This was like something that, I like realized as I was writing this script. I was like, the people in WALL-E are supposed to represent babies. Yes, they are chubby. They are chubby because they're supposed to represent babies. They are actively being pacified. The ship is making it so they never have anything
critical
they don't
thinking
want. They
whatsoever.
never get uncomfortable. You are never supposed to be uncomfortable. So the second that you are, it feels wrong. It feels bad. You want to hide. You want to go back to the thing that is comfortable. Now, of course, I'm talking about like just being uncomfortable in life in general. Obviously, if you see something that is triggering to you, like don't just sit there and let yourself be triggered. Like, you know, do the steps that you need to do to make sure that you're not like being triggered online. But it is not somebody's responsibility to make sure that you're not getting triggered, right? Like you have to take your responsibility to make sure that that does not happen to you, especially online. I understand that for a lot of people, fandom is a safe space, but that does not mean that everything has to cater to you.
And that said, there, you know, again, people should tag their content properly and put warnings where need be when it comes to, you know, mature topics and stuff. But that is where their responsibility ends, and yours should jump in.
So I ask all of the people who believe that AO3 should be censored, where's the line? Who gets to decide what censorship is and what constitutes it? You say you don't want all the taboo topics, but what does that entail? Just a mention of it? What if it's in the original text? What if the writer is writing from the perspective of the perpetrator, like the book Lolita? Right. Okay, so we can agree on that some things are a net bad. Okay, what about toxic relationships? There are some tropes that trigger people's PTSD. Should we ban those too because they're not just happy-go-lucky all the time? No. Well, some people say so. So who should we listen to? Who gets to decide what gets to stay and what gets to go? Censorship has never been good for anyone, as I have said, and we can see this point blank on TikTok. TikTok, after its recent buyout, has completely censored things like Gaza, what's going on in Minneapolis, even this new war with Iran has been completely censored on these sites. For someone who is like very socially and politically aware, I follow a lot of people who talk about these things constantly. I have not seen nary a video. I used to see their videos all the time on my For You page. Damn. I wouldn't even have to go actively searching for them. Again, talking about like never having to search for anything, but I never had to actively go searching for it. It was always right there in my face. Now it's being censored under the guise of, oh, we don't want you to be harassment or not great depictions of events and things like that. Under that guise, they are censoring the news. And in the wake of everything that's going on right now, you really want to call for more censorship? Everyone will have something that bothers them, and if we get rid of anything that bothers anyone, what could be left? AO3's exclude filter really is helpful to remove works with tags that you don't like, and I use it all the time. There has to be some sort of acceptance that things I don't like are going to be out there, but I don't need to be bothered by it by looking for it. When things get into illegal territory, it's a bit more complicated. I don't often read non-confics, but I don't think that they should be deleted because it's an unfortunate fact of life and could shed light on a situation or bring closure to the people affected by it. No one should censor fiction. The kidifying of the internet is just a thinly veiled excuse to sterilize it for corporal greetings. I don't think literature should be banned ever. Of course, I've had a hard stance on this since I'm the kid of an English teacher. I'm not sure if anyone has read Fahrenheit 451 or was taught about it in high school or bothered to pay attention during the unit, but censorship is bad. We're actually seeing this with the internet as a whole. People are claiming that they're censoring things for the children, when in reality, they are censoring things out of corporate greed in order to sell and steal data. People have different morals. If they are from different cultures, religions, ethnic backgrounds, etc., they will have different morals, and that will cause them to have different views on censorship. Nothing is wrong with that. It just means that there is no winning in the battle when it comes to censorship, and at the end of the day, everything will be censored. Even if something is censored, people will find a way around it. AO3 was made because other websites had too strict rules for censorship. If they crack down, there will just be a new site that crops up where people will flock to in order to post what they want. There is one topic I feel like should be cracked down on in AO3, and that's sexual RPF of child actors. That I feel crosses a line in a way that should really be addressed.
And again,
like I said, you guys had
children.
a lot to say, so I'm going to put up some more responses as I talk about this bill that is in Congress right now. Hello. Okay, so the Kids Online Safety Act is a bill that has passed in the UK and is trying to get passed here in the US, and it's to protect the safety of the children on the internet.
Allegedly.
If you know anything about the way anything works in this country, that's not what it is. If you want to go through and read the act yourself online, I will leave a link to it down below, both the UK and the US version of this. As you start to read this, you will
That's a long one.
Basically
Actually, hold on. I'm gonna skim through this. Yeah, this person also very correct. They also mentioned something that's also important, which is that victims of abuse, sexual abuse, CSAM victims, etc., have also come out to speak up against censorship. So it's not just people that have never had anything to do with it and people in privileged positions that call for this, or call against this rather, but also people who have lived it, who have experienced it, and who have learned things or have been able to cope through consuming this content, have been able to, heal through it, as Ali mentioned earlier. So yeah, like the only time I will look at a piece of fictional content and go, oh, that's bad, is when the creator themselves comes out and states or heavily implies themselves with their own words that they condone this thing in real life, that they think this is a good thing, bad thing, whatever. That is the only case, because other than that, you do not know. You simply don't know what someone is exactly thinking while they are writing, drawing, creating something, unless they actually say it. And until they do, you do not get to make these comments and draw conclusions purely based on the fictional content they create and consume.
To try and not just get censorship online, but also information.
This is
Like,
also a
just
little
literally
quieter
the
than it was
government trying
before,
to
but
gather information. If you've seen anything about how this has been implemented in the UK,
well, more reading for me.
is face verification now for things like Discord and other apps that kids might be using. I know Roblox was one of them where they needed ID verification, and this seems all cool and dandy until you think about it for longer than 2 seconds, and then you realize, oh, why does the government need to have, not even the government, just like private companies are now going to have my ID?
Yep.
And other personal information about me to prove I am who I say I am? It's
okay, I might read through these like later
had, like,
in my own time,
where all of this information, these IDs, pictures of IDs of people were leaked. And it keeps happening to Discord. So it's like, it's no fucking wonder nobody wants to go along with this, right? And of course, this act goes on to say, oh, we're trying to protect kids from, horrible things online, people.
Yeah, sure. If they did, then they might actually want to arrest the people that commit
really
these things to children.
More information from you to dictate what you can and cannot say online. Much like I mentioned earlier about the idea of censoring, not even taboo topics, just controversial topics like Gaza and stuff like that, because it's under the guise of harassment or racism or this or that. Who gets to decide what is racist, right? What is racism, against whom, against what? And now I can't talk about, what's going on in Palestine because of that. It's the same thing here where it's like, so I'm talking about an 18 plus topic on a website that I should be able to talk about 18 plus topics on, but because kids have access to that website, looking at Twitter, oh my god, my stuff could be censored or taken into court and being like, hey, you did this, and this is very clearly to the extent of trying to hurt children. And you're like, no, that's obviously not what I was trying to do. And as I mentioned earlier, who usually gets this crackdown of like explicit material that's very clearly not for kids, but people censorship because they think they're protecting kids? Queer people. Exactly. Thank you. You see how this line of thinking,
how many people to this day still call queer people, gay folks, trans folk, groomers, and accuse them of all kinds of things?
Evolves very quickly. Trying to play the moral high ground always ends with vulnerable people losing the most. This goes into why conservatism seems to be so on the rise within fandom and on the internet as a whole. People do not realize that the act of censorship is very conservative in nature because of the things that you are censoring and because of what happens, right? People talk about, if you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat it, and this is one of those ways. People will say that they're here to censor sexually explicit material, and that always includes gay people. That has been a thing for forever. Because of homophobic
and
people
it will
believing
escalate.
That being gay is sexually explicit. And there are conservatives out there who will take that and run the country mile with it.
The amount of times people talk about how people instantly connect any gay activity, gay romance and whatnot with like sexuality and like if it's gay, then it's sexualizing, and there's no need to expose children to this, and that might not, and maybe children shouldn't actually see two men kissing, but if it was a man and a woman, that's totally fine because that's all all natural and that's normal. Like, it happens so often. This double standard of, oh, if they do it, it's bad, but if we do it, that's okay.
When people say that we all need to get more woke now, it does not mean deciding on what the arts get to be. When you sit up here and say that this type of art is allowed and this type isn't, you know what you sound like. a fascist. Giving the benefit of the doubt, I believe that a lot of these people are young and just misguided in their attempts to do what they believe is right. When you are a kid, or just younger in general, and you realize how fucked up the world is, you want to do anything that is actually in your power, because you don't have a lot, to try and make this world better. And if that means trying to make your own fandom space better, I understand it. I do. However, we need to watch what we say and watch what we do before we end up 1-2 step down the alt-right pipeline. I remember the last time I talked about this, I had talked about somebody on TikTok who had come online to say there is so much gay stuff in fandom now, as if it was a bad thing. And they got read to filth and they got read to all hell.
I mean,
but I remember
that's...
seeing that and being so taken aback, because the truth is, a lot of people come into fandom and they're met with more gay people than they have probably ever seen in their actual real lives. Hey, guys, being gay is still a crime in most countries around the world. Even in—
If I recall, around a third of the world is where, being gay is, like, homosexuality is illegal. And unless that's changed since I've looked it up a couple of years ago, like 11 or 12 countries, you can still get the death penalty for it.
In America, people are still being prosecuted for being queer. People are still dying for being queer and trans. Please, if you ever believe there's too much gay stuff going on in fandom, I urge you to take a step outside.
Yep.
Seriously. So I'm going to end this section by saying, if you truly, truly believe that there are certain things that there just should not be read out on the internet, I urge you to use that block button, your God-given right to use that goddamn block button.
Please do.
And here's the thing. I think that sometimes people get too caught up in FOMO to actually block people. I have seen twice now a bunch of teenagers get upset that they were blocked by a larger creator online because they were fighting with them. And we'll get into that in a second when I talk about fandom entitlement. But I do think it's insane that you're getting upset that somebody's blocking you, when you yourself are advocating for censorship and people not having access to certain things. I genuinely might make an internet safety video. Like, I want to make it lighthearted, obviously. Like, my videos done that already on this channel. But I kind of want to make an internet safety video because I definitely believe that we just don't have that anymore, especially for younger kids on the internet. They're kind of just thrown on the internet the second they can, like, speak. Even before they can speak sometimes, you know, iPad kids and stuff like that. And we're not teaching them how to stay safe online, like, at all. And some of this seems like very, like, obvious, like, don't talk to strangers, block things that you don't want to see, don't let anybody just have access to you, don't use your real name online. Like, all of these things that we were taught as kids, these kids aren't being taught now. And so it seems really obvious to us, but to these kids, who, especially nowadays where everybody's online, like, there is real community to be found online. Kids aren't going to know how to, like, spot the difference between someone who has their best interest at heart and somebody doesn't, unless you tell them, which, like, you know, sound off if you want that. Obviously, it'll be open
and then they have to believe you,
like, advice and stuff like that. But, like, let me know, because I'm heavily considering making a video like that. So next, I want to talk about fan entitlement. So this ties into what I said earlier about algorithms being, like, the dominant force on all of these social media apps. This teaches you to expect to see content all of the time. This hurts creators, fan artists, fan writers, theorists, editors, everyone. I have seen people get so discouraged because their art hasn't done well. Their videos get no views, and it's all because we have tied so much self-worth online to how many people see our videos and artwork. Of course, I have personally gone through this myself. As you have seen on my channel has grown very, very slowly over these last couple of years. And that is because I make the videos that I want to make. And yeah, it does hurt sometimes when I put out a video and it doesn't do as well as I thought it would do, right? And especially when I put out a video that does really, really well, and I know that I could just put out the same type of video over and over and over again. Like, I could have become a Deltarune channel. I could have. And I love Deltarune channels.
No, literally same. Like, I could restrict the type of content I make and grow much faster. But I don't want to, because this kind of stuff, it's fun. And it's also part of what I want to do and what I want to establish on this channel, along with other things. And if that causes me to grow much, much slower, fucking so be it. So what?
So I love Deltarune. So I really could have become a Deltarune channel, but I knew that I wanted to talk about other things, and I want to continue to talk about a bunch of different things and anything that, like, gets my fancy going. But because of that, I know that, like, sometimes the algorithm does not like that, right? And that can be very discouraging until I realize like variety. That, like, Since when am I like letting myself and letting my worth be decided because an algorithm decided not to show my video to people, right? Why did I start making videos? Was it to appease an algorithm? No, it was to find community and to find other people to talk about my favorite things on the internet. Why did you decide to become an artist? Was it to appease an algorithm, get a bunch of likes on a photo? Probably not. I feel mixed about it. On the one hand, I am happy that more people are engaging in a subculture that I enjoy. Though on the other, it is clear that
1 second. All right, and we're back.
This is more akin to the fandom explosion during the 2020 lockdown, when people would enter fandoms out of boredom and not know how to act with kindness and grace towards other members of a fandom. I also believe that while consumerism has always been a part of fandom, it's increased exponentially over the years, with fan conventions essentially becoming fandom malls instead of fan celebrations, in my opinion.
Yeah, okay. You know what? I'm gonna let
During
this.
During the pandemic, there wasn't much else to
do
besides post about whatever show or game you were into, so it became more acceptable to openly be a big fan of something. The divide between casual fans and fandom is becoming more blurred, and that's where a lot of clash comes from. Before, fandom was a place that was kind of hidden from the rest of the media, so being spectated by people who don't care about fandom has caused some trouble. With the erasure of personal website, fandom villages have kind of merged into giant cities where everyone can see everything, which isn't bad on paper. In fact, it's allowed more marginalized and neurodivergent people to find one another, but bigger population means bigger chance of drama because it allowed other less charitable people to find each other. Once upon a time, you could DM your admin and tell them if someone was doing something fucked. Now you have to send a message to some fucker working for Twitter, or the Twitter guy will ban you for saying something with a trans flag in your bio. Ever since the pandemic, I 1000% believe that normies have gotten into fandom, which is fine, whatever. People can do what they want. They do not know how to act on the internet, however. They do not know fandom culture, they are not nice, and they should go back to their hiking or whatever they do. They need to learn about fandom culture before participating in it. Ever since 2020, it has been a complete slog to post fanfic and art.
Yeah, and that's the whole. Okay, my fucking god. You know what? Okay, I'm just gonna. You know what? No, fuck you. I'm just gonna talk while I let this fucking ad play out. I've kind of talked about this before. The swarm of normies and like what being a normie even is, and how many of those have gotten into fandom spaces, into anime and whatnot over the years, especially since the pandemic. And how, I mean, she's probably going to touch on all of this, you know, the sense of entitlement people get when they come in, they're like, oh, this is weird. I don't like what I'm seeing here. This should all cater to me because I'm here now. And like, as a normie, you don't really engage with the media. You consume it. You like it, you have opinions about it, but you don't engage fully with the community. You don't create. And yet you try to police, or some try to police, how other people create their things. Oh, whoops.
Do not understand creating for creating's sake. Thanks to TikTok and Twitter algorithms, you are staring at a piece of art for max 5 seconds. Work that could have taken an artist 80 hours to do is being tapped and scrolled away at record times. This has led some people, especially people who have never made certain types of art before, a certain level of art before, to expect this level of art constantly, all the time. And they are just demanding more and more and more, whether that be from YouTube creators, TikTok creators, cosplayers, artists, fanfic writers, it doesn't matter. People are just expecting more and more and more every.
And here's a reminder, these people are doing this shit for free. For free. You don't have to pay a single cent to read a fanfic on AO3, to view fan art on Twitter, on Pixiv, on wherever else, to watch a video on sometimes, but usually most of the time you don't have to pay anything to watch a video on YouTube.
Single day. I love Umiko-chan's art. Their art style is
so that's good. Nice.
Chef's kiss.
Good job.
And they're in a lot of fandoms, so they draw a lot of different fan art. One of the fandoms that got them the most followers that they have now was Skate the Infinity and Ghost Soap from Call of Duty.
Oh, hell yeah.
Brother, please look at this picture. They posted some ghost.
The rest of this comic already gives me major full body cringe, and I hate it. And then you remember Soap's fuck-ass accent, and it gets 10 times worse. Enough. At least the artist is creative with how she covers Ghost's face. I think that's cool. the speech bubble is covering his face here. Face here is so good. I hate that this is one of my favorite artists. Painful whenever she posted like this. That is so baffling. Like, you typed out all of that. Maybe even reread it to, I don't know, check for spelling errors and whatnot. And still decided to post it? That is honestly embarrassing.
Soap fan art, something that they haven't done in a while, and someone had the nerve to publicly share their post on their public story and say this.
Dear God, people, publicly especially.
Your public stories are public. How dare you follow somebody who you claim to be one of your favorite artists, and when they post art that from a fandom that you happen to not like, you just go ill. I hate that they did this. This is so cringe.
Say this to someone in public. These same people go off on the internet, but tale as old as time, well, tale as old as the internet, they would not say that shit in real life. They would not, because they know how fucking stupid, how embarrassing, and how hateful and how bad it would make them look, at the very least. Even if they still fully believe that stuff, they wouldn't say it because they know how bad it would make them look, and that they would actually have to view and face the consequences in real time.
I'm in your walls. I'm in your walls. And also, this isn't even the first time something like this has happened to this artist. They drew Shanks and Mihawk fan art, and someone had the nerve, multiple people actually had the nerve and the audacity to text, like, to DM them and to write in their comments, like, oh, you should have drawn a better ship. And apparently, this is a thing that happens all the time.
Oh, it sure
on TikTok,
is.
I see it all the time. Someone will post their art on TikTok that they worked so hard on, and someone in the comments will be like, oh, this is an ugly-ass ship. Cute art, though.
I don't ship it. Cute art, though. I prefer them as friends. Cute art, though. They're so family. Good art, though. Or nice edit, though. Dude, Yeah, I've been there. I know people who have been there.
How dare you have the nerve to do that to somebody? And I would say you wouldn't say that to somebody in person, but people are doing that in person at conventions now.
Yeah.
What's going on? This kind of behavior is insane to me. I always try to view fan works from a gift from the creator who took time out of their life to make something they're passionate about. But with the growing monetization of fandom, memes/shitpost accounts have big followings because they steal content and post a lot. Accounts dedicated to one specific media or even a specific character, some people have grown accustomed to getting whatever fan media they want, not understanding it takes a lot of work to post consistently, and most of these people aren't getting paid. A lot of people are into different things, and someone might not stay in a fandom for the rest of their life, and that's normal. To be honest, I think that this happens when a kid's first introduction to fandom is through dopamine dispenser sites like TikTok or YouTube. I know I sound like a boomer, but please bear with me.
No, already I agree.
Back in the day, they've
at
always
least to an extent.
But it was Sasuke69 yelling at Fallen Angel Heart for writing Sakura marrying the wrong character in a fic. Then the comment under either being ignored or the thread being locked, and people telling Sasuke69 they need to calm down or leave. At most, it would just be the drama soup of the day before everyone moved on. But now, with the increase of numbers and lack of control of our online spaces, Sasuke69 would go on a full-on hate campaign, post screenshots of the fic on Twitter, then someone on YouTube would just probably do a dramatic reading of it before TikTok girlies started doing reenactments. Fandom isn't just a place to hang out anymore. Everyone has their own little stage to try and get noticed. We have access to creators when 20 years ago, the idea of talking to someone who makes things in fandoms form was like meeting an actual celebrity. Now I see YouTube shorts about how fans have turned so bad and so. Like, it's normal every day. I think YouTube has become a big contender for the mutation of fandom. Drama sells, and there's a whole channels covering people's in fandom.
Back when I was like getting into fandom and stuff, and I was like, when I was like big into like certain anime, like Kuroko no Basket or Fairy Tail or even like One Piece and whatnot, which was like around 2014, 15, 16-ish. Like, back then, yeah, there was drama. But I'm pretty sure the rate of people telling others to end themselves was significantly lower. Or threatening bodily harm was significantly lower than it is today. The extremes to which people go so often, so fast, it's different. it's different. Back then, if you watched Fairy Tale and you didn't ship Natsu and Lucy, you were more of an Urza person, or Natsu and Lisana. Yeah, people would go back and forth and bitch at each other, but not to this extent. Not to the point of like threats on your life. Not to the point of like doxing and trying to like stalk every social media account that person had and trying desperately to dig up dirt and then posting it for all to see. It's so vile.
Not a creator, just a random person. I hate posting art in fanfic. I mainly post on Tumblr, and honestly, Twitter has ruined everything about posting. My art has 100 plus likes and 7 reblogs, so I have no engagement whatsoever on my fanfic, has no comments, but I will get asked demanding for more creative work. I even had someone block my main blog and continue to follow my art blog, and they keep dropping ass in my ass box expecting me to respond. I can't. They blocked me. I know it's like way worse on Twitter, and it sounds like, oh, woe is me, boo-hoo. It's just at the end of the day, when I put a lot of effort into something, we want to share it with people and make them laugh and feel joy. I felt while making it and get like 2 reblogs and 30 likes. It feels like pity, and I don't want to share with the class anymore. Yes, and this goes hand in hand with fandom growing at an exponential rate. Fandoms have always been this entitled, but it has been to a much smaller scale than it is today. There has always been rude fandom members, but they never became the defining face of fandoms that they are today. I also believe that the barrier between fandom and creator being basically non-existent due to social media to be an objectively bad thing. We should not have immediate access to creators of our favorite pieces of media at our fingertips. Oh yeah, totally. There's been a rise of fan entitlement. I think the reason is there's been an increase because in real life we are becoming more entitled, less compassionate. Like any social media platform is proof of that.
Very much.
And it doesn't just stop there. And this happens with cosplay. Racism, ableism, over-sexualization has led a lot of people to just wanting people to cosplay something a very specific way. And if, God forbid, you're a cosplayer people actually like, they're expecting more and more out of you every single day.
And God forbid they don't like it.
Into real life where people are harassing women cosplayers. It doesn't matter if they're wearing like a sexualized costume or not. It doesn't matter. They still get harassed. These are human beings, not your fantasy characters. You don't even own these characters, so how can you be so upset about the way that somebody portrays them?
Yep.
It's usually just racism. And of course, conventions themselves have taken a turn for the worst in some ways as well. We are 6 years out of 2020, and why are people treating conventions like it's a fucking playground? People being inconsiderate of others, pushing disabled people out of the way, causing property damage, and leaking bodily fluids. And of course, being rude to staff being rude to patrons and artists, guests being extremely rude to convention guests and panelists. Harry on a Hook has a really good Substack article about specifically what is going on in conventions nowadays, especially as it relates to panels, because some people truly deeply believe that no one goes to conventions for panels anymore. No, babe. Like
I'm sorry?
Commenter said earlier, just because you want to go spend money and party at a convention, so be it. Do whatever you want. But that doesn't mean the rest of us want to do that. A lot of people do go for paneling. Paneling is so fun. And
yeah, dude, I would love to go for panels. It's just that, money, quite literally. And usually people are do panels in the US, and it happens not as often in Germany for the ones that I care about, but that's whatever. If I could, I would.
Anyway, go read Harry on a Hook's Substack article. I may have been mentioned in it once or twice. Yes. It's a really good article about the way like panelists are treated, not just by like people who think that they want to do panels, like seeing it as just a free way to get into a convention, but also by guests that go to panels, fighting with panelists, fighting with guests voice actors and stuff like that. Like, it's actually kind of gotten insane. Like, this goes beyond just fandom etiquette. This just real life etiquette. Like, we're 6 years out of 2020. There's no excuse of like, oh, we missed our socialization years and blah, 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 blah. You just don't know how to act anymore. Like, you just don't know how to act. I understand people get really, really excited when they're in a place where they're surrounded by people who are just like them. When I went to my first convention when I was 13, I was so excited to be around everybody who is exactly like me. Anime was even more niche back then, and so being at a place where everyone loves anime and is just like me was really exciting. And I was probably bouncing off the walls because I was 13. But I never ever was yelling in somebody's face or asking somebody something inappropriately or like whatever.
No, never.
Who drove me to said convention would grab me by my fucking hair and drag me out of there if I acted like that. It's insane, and some of you need to be banned from these places. Okay. lastly, let's talk about fandom etiquette. I always try to end these on a positive note, or at least a note where we can actually take away something good. I don't want to just complain all the time.
Lovely.
And I don't want younger people to feel like they have no place here. You do. You do have a place here. And I want to use this as a teaching moment and more of a call in than a call out. That's why I never really want to actually show people who are bad actors, unless they are like truly deeply bad actors, you know, like the whole Wheat Pete's of the world. I never want to specifically be like, this person is bad, because I feel like everything is a learning opportunity, right? So let's use this as a learning opportunity and talk about fandom etiquette. If you have nothing nice to say, shut the fuck up and scroll.
Yep.
Block people. Please, why are people getting mad when they get blocked? During the whole botcha
situation, and that's what it all boils down to, really.
Where a bunch of people were yelling, mostly children. There were a couple of children who were yelling at a really big, like, BL creator on TikTok. Said creator,
we'll never know because of fucking ads.
At a really big, like, BL creator on TikTok. Said creator blocked them. They then went out of their way to tell their friends, or what I think is their side accounts, to tell this creator to please unblock them. And I'm like, why would I do that? Like, why,
dude. Oh, come on. All right, I swear to God, this Wi-Fi.
Creator to please unblock them. And I'm like, why would I do that? Like, why, if I was in this creator's shoes, why would
we're so close to being
bothering me, telling me that I'm a horrible person and all this, that, the third, blah, 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 blah. I think it's a level of like parasocialness where it's like you feel so comfortable with this person, with this YouTuber or TikToker or whatever, that you feel like you can just talk to them any old type of way. Like, what happened to having respect as a fellow human being? And you're supposed to like this person? This is the way you treat people when you like them, like that person earlier with the fan art?
Yeah, and like that's another thing. The whole parasocial relationships. You are, like, number one, if you want to talk to your friends a certain way, sure, whatever. As long as it's mutual, not necessarily mutual, but they consent, they know what you're getting at, they know the way you talk, and they are okay with that, sure. These creators are not your friends. These artists, not your friends. You have a one-sided parasocial relationship to them. You like them, you enjoy them, that is perfectly fine. They could not pick you out in a crowd. They could not recognize your voice. They could not recognize your typing or speaking style. They don't know your habits. They don't know the way that you act. They, chances are, have never heard of you. Don't even know you exist until you approach them. So, treat them as you would any regular stranger. Basic decency, respect should not be that hard. And if it is for you, then I hate to break it to you. If you really think it's that hard to be respectful, that just implies that you have not been a very respectful person for a significant amount of time. Long enough to where respect is not part of your common conduct anymore. You have to, where you have to relearn or even learn just being respectful. That is not something that you should ever have to relearn. And if you do, that is something to take seriously. Genuinely. And if you can't do it yourself, fucking get help.
This is your favorite artist and you're talking shit about them behind their back? Where they're actually not even behind their back, where they can readily see it in their comment section? Like, huh? Please, don't be mad when you get blocked. And this happened again on Twitter, where the teenager who was arguing with somebody else, and so the adult in the situation blocked them, and then they got mad. They were like, you're a grown-ass adult blocking a teenager.
Exactly.
Yes, honey, we should be so happy that an adult decided to block a teenager so they are no longer, like, talking to them. What are we talking about here? You want them to keep talking to you? You want this adult to keep talking? Not that the adult was doing anything wrong in this situation, but like, why are you upset that an adult blocked you? Like, I think it's just this idea of you want your cake and you want to eat it too. Like, you can't have both. You
and like when you're like you want to win,
you don't have to like.
It's also that you want to when you talk to someone or you argue with someone or you talk at someone and they choose not to engage. That immediately sits wrong with a lot of people. Because they're like, oh, I'm putting in all this energy, and now I want to get something out of it. I want to win this conversation. And them ignoring me is not winning. Them ignoring me, you know, I need to try to egg them on. I need to poke further, because then they will engage, and then I will have more to work with. Then I will be able to fire back, and then I will be able to win at conversation. I don't know why I said that word so weirdly. Whatever.
Suck up to this person and like be completely like, you know, licking their boots or whatever. But like, you can't sit there and like harass this person and then expect them not to retaliate or expect them to not block you. And the thing is, I think these people want like a reaction. They want you to like attack them back, and so that they can be the victim, when it's like, or I could just block you and move on with my life. And some of you get really upset about that. So like, that's the first thing, is you see something you don't like, please do yourself a favor and block and move on. We don't need to hear about how you blocked a person. We don't need to hear about how you hate this person and they're such a bad person and blah, 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 blah. Just block and move on. That being said, I will give you a slight little crash course on internet safety. Be careful who you talk to online. Most people online do not have your best interest at heart. They have their own interest at heart. That doesn't mean that you cannot make friends with people online. That has happened, obviously, but you need to be careful about who you talk to online. Healthy discourse does exist, and I do believe that healthy discourse can happen within fandom, whether you're talking about theories or you're talking about characters or you're talking about whatever. It can exist. Fun. However, I think we need to detach a little from it. I try to detach myself from these videos as much as possible. I am well within the rights to be criticized. You can criticize me, you can disagree with me, whatever. I try my best. It's hard to do, but because I create these things, I talk about these things, I am the person in the videos. It can be a little hard to detach sometimes, but we need to detach ourselves from fandom. Like, detach. These are not your babies. These are not your like. I love these characters so much. They mean so much to me. Yes, but they are not real. These characters. They are not my characters. And so if somebody feels differently about them in a way that I personally do not like, that is okay. I promise you that is okay. Healthy discourse can exist, but it only comes when you can detach yourself from the fact that these are fictional fucking characters. Lastly, of course.
And hey, I have cases where my general mindset is that I enjoy healthy discussion. That is something that I encourage. That is something that I love doing. Talking with people about my favorite characters and non-favorite characters, and seeing what people think. And I also dislike when, for example, I feel like a character is being misinterpreted, that someone is liking or disliking a character based on misconceptions about the character, you know, a lack of media literacy, whatever you call it. But even then, I don't go throwing out insults. I don't go threatening their or their loved ones' lives. I don't go calling them a bad person. I try to change their mind. I try to see where they're coming from. I share my own thoughts, and if at the end of the day we cannot agree, then that's that. Maybe I'll be like, maybe it's a small issue where I'll be like, oh yeah, well, agree to disagree. Or maybe it's a bigger thing where I'm like, okay, yeah, no, and I'll just end the conversation and I just won't interact with them again or whatever. Either one is fine, but I do my best to be respectful about it. And guess what? When I feel myself getting heated, when I feel myself like getting a little trigger ready and impatient, and I'd be like, okay, I'm amping up the sarcasm or the sass too much, I step away. I take a moment, I reread, and I think to myself, I could be like this. But what's the point? Will that get this person to listen to me? Will that increase their understanding, their willingness to get where I'm coming from? Probably not. So I probably shouldn't do that. And in most cases, I don't follow through on that. Just like that. And it can take some time to get into that habit, but it's not impossible. It is very much possible.
Respect event organizers, artists, writers, people who actively make things in fandoms. You would be nothing without them. You would have no conventions to go to. There would be nothing to do at said conventions, nothing to buy at said conventions if it weren't for these people. So please do yourself a favor and be respectful. I feel like people should be more grateful for any piece of fan media they consume, and they should just be more understanding that fandom is a hobby and somewhere to have fun and connect rather than judge or argue. Find a space for you and your friends that isn't in the public eye. Discord pulled crap with it needing Face ID to not be restricted as under 18, but the servers on there are a good setup. It's not old school forums, but it is a controlled space. Not all of them are going to be run by smart people, but the ones I am cater to keep the peace well. I would also say just make your own fandom spaces and bring your friends and people you trust into it. To quote the Doom Twitter, you are in control of the buttons you press. If something is bothering you, block them. If something gives you the ick, blacklist it. Do not complain about it on your blog or Twitter or Blue Sky. Go complain about it with your group chat. It's way more fun. I promise you. When you play with
the amount of times I've complained about shit to my friends, perfectly fine, because that is private. That is private, and even then, I do try to take care to like not go overboard. Even then, but yeah, talk about it in private with friends who may or may not think the same as you, but who you can, you know, be a little more casual and open with. That's totally fine.
Your dolls in your own little corner, you have so much fun. Please don't limit fandom to starting drama and getting mad online. That's what everyone with hate in their heart wants. The world is beautiful and full of love and peace. One piece of fandom etiquette that I always try to abide by is to leave comments. Tell creators that you love their work. I guarantee you that they'll be touched by your words, even if it's just a little nerve-wracking, to comment and share your thoughts.
Even if it's just like a simple smiley or a simple heart or a simple
good. If it's your opinion,
thumbs up.
Doesn't mean that others are wrong for having an opinion that contradicts yours. And I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you did, you are a real one. Ooh, this was a long one.
Why, thank you.
I haven't done a long one in a long time.
This was a long one, but it was nice.
Please leave your advice down below about how we think we can fix fandom etiquette, because I do want young people and just new people in general to have a lot of fun here. What's next for me? Let me tell you, the Amazing Digital Circus episode comes out the day that this video
this
comes
was
out.
just like next up stuff, and this was 4 months ago, so I assume this stuff has already happened, at least some of it. But yeah, honestly, general advice, just be kind. Be kind, set boundaries, and respect those boundaries. Those are the three key aspects, I think, that if you can abide by those, then yeah. Like that'll just make fandom experiences and fandom spaces a lot more comfortable. It's just being respectful, not overstepping, expressing your opinion, sure, but in a way that does not belittle others, that does not downplay or insult them, that does not invalidate their experiences. And even if you disagree at the end of the day, as long as you're not disagreeing over, like, I don't fucking know, human rights or whatever, if it's just, like, about fictional discourse, yeah. And also, learn to acknowledge what is actually, like, real things that need to be discussed and what is just, I don't know, talking about a fictional character. Media literacy is important. Media literacy is very important. But as with all things, there's nuance to it. And if someone doesn't agree with your vision, that's a shame. But it's not the end of the world. So, yeah. And as I kind of predicted, a lot of the things that I stopped to pause and talk about were things she addressed, like, in the video itself. But, hey, that just shows that I agree. And I get where they're coming from. So yeah, Ali Dreamer. Lovely, lovely, lovely video. My throat hurts. Anyway, goodbye!